Welcome into Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Coming up on today's show, we will have the final report on the Seahawks before heading into the draft on Thursday night. Also, an update on the Baker Mayfield trade rumors. But let's go ahead and get started with a look at the odds for the number 9 pick for the Seahawks. The favorites, according to DraftKings right now, show that Derek Stingley is the odds-on favorite for the Seahawks at the number 9 pick, followed by Evan Neal at Alabama, Charles Cross, the third favorite, while Jermaine Johnson is the fourth favorite, and Trevor Penning is the fifth favorite there. But as you can see, this could go a number of ways. Now, I'll give you my pick of what I think is going to happen in just a moment, but I want to hear from you guys. Let's put you on the clock right now. What will the Seahawks do with that number 9 overall pick? Let us know in the comments what you guys think the Seahawks will do with that pick. Give us a name who you think it will be in the comments below. You're going to get an ad break. Take advantage of it. While that ad's playing, tell us who you think the Seahawks will pick. Now, for me, my guess is that the Seahawks go with Evan Neal at 9. And some of these draft boards on Evan Neal have been all over the place. We've seen him as high as the top 4, and others have him maybe even going past the Seahawks. But for me, this is the most talented offensive tackle in this draft. His 6'7" frame is just too much to pass up. Pull up the odds one more time, if we could, to see the folks out there just how this could be. I think it's going to be Evan Neal, but I don't say that with any certainty of some sorts. There's no consensus on what the Seahawks will do with this number 9 pick. About a month ago, we told you that everybody was saying the Seahawks were going to get Charles Cross. And now, that doesn't look like that's the most likely scenario here. That Cross could end up where he's not available when the Seahawks pick. The Seahawks could end up passing on Charles Cross when it's all said and done. Derek Stingley Jr., the odds-on favorite, I hope they don't do that personally. Not anything to do with Stingley's talent, but I just don't trust the injury history there with Derek Stingley. And I think Neal in this situation, or those 5 names, would be the best choice for the Seahawks in the most likely scenario. We'll see what happens there. Now, one idea that's being talked about, surprisingly, is the Seahawks trading up. Yes, you heard that right. We'll have that in just a moment. But before we do, a reminder, our draft coverage here on Chat Sports is going to be fantastic. Tom Downey and the gang going to have you covered all 3 days, all 7 rounds. Every single pick will be broken down. You don't have to worry about all those interviews or the goofy fake country music from Luke Bryan or anything like that. We're going to have a great show for 3 days in a row. You can watch it on YouTube. If Rumble's more your thing, it's available there as well. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV is where you can watch our live draft coverage all 3 days. You will not want to miss it. We'll have you covered on the Chat Sports NFL Draft Live show this Thursday through Saturday. Now, here is the latest report on the idea of the Seahawks moving up in the draft. Doug Kyed of Pro Football Focus tweeted this out on Tuesday, that the Seahawks were one of a number of teams potentially interested in trading up in the draft, including the Jets, Saints, and Cowboys, while teams like the Panthers, Giants, and Vikings could be trading down. Now, personally, I would be shocked if the Seahawks trade up. Now, to their credit, if they're trying to trade up, they've done a good job of keeping that quiet of some sorts. I have not seen anything to indicate that there was a guy that the Seahawks had to get and they'd be willing to trade up to get him. That hasn't been the buzz of some sort. This is all news to me, the idea of the Seahawks trading up here. And if you look at the draft order of the positions where the Seahawks could trade up into, to me, there's not a huge gap from where they're at 9 of the talent pool as opposed to those other 8 picks. When you look at the needs of this Seahawks team, quarterback, offensive tackle, edge, inside linebacker, cornerback, personally, I don't think they have the draft capital to move up. They have so many needs to look at. I think it's more likely the Seahawks trade down rather than move into that top 8 that you see right there. So we'll see what happens on that front with the Seahawks if they trade up or not. I think that's a little absurd. But, we'll have an update here in just a second, folks, on Baker Mayfield that we want to tell you about as far as the trade possibility of him in Seattle, where that stands. But before we do that, I want to know, what do you guys think? Will the Seahawks trade up from 9? Is that going to happen? Here's your chance to tell us what you think. Type Y for yes, type N for no if you think the Seahawks will trade up from 9. We'll have the ad break. Take advantage of it. While that's going on, put your votes in. Y for yes, N for no if you think the Seahawks trade up from number 9. CBS Sports NFL insider Josina Anderson tweeted out this update this week in regards to Baker Mayfield, and she said that she spoke to a league source at this time. The Seahawks still don't sound overly eager on dealing for the Browns quarterback and his salary at that price in the situation where they feel Cleveland has to eventually move him, still worth monitoring. And that's absolutely right. Eventually, Baker Mayfield will leave the Cleveland Browns. They will have to move on from him. There's an $18 million price tag, and as every day goes by, you would think that Baker Mayfield's going to get cheaper. And also, if that's the case, that means that you would have to pay less. You would hope that the Browns can take more of that salary. And also, you would have to factor in that he would cost less than what you would give up in addition as the days go on. Now, here's something to watch out for. It's the Carolina Panthers in regards to Baker Mayfield. And here's what I mean by this. If Carolina takes Malik Willis at 6, then I don't think that they're in the quarterback market for Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo or anybody for that matter. But if they pass on Malik Willis and do not draft a quarterback in the first round, then I think Carolina is going to be the team that ultimately ends up with Baker Mayfield at the end of the day. If Carolina passes on Willis, I think Baker Mayfield ultimately ends up in Carolina when it's all said and done. What do you guys think? Is Baker Mayfield going to end up with the Carolina Panthers, or is he going to end up with the Seattle Seahawks? Those appear to be the two options for Baker Mayfield at this point in time. Here is your chance to tell us what you guys think if Mayfield will end up in Carolina or Seattle. Type C for Carolina, type S for Seattle. What I'd look at this, guys, is that this Carolina team, they have a head coach in Matt Rule that's very desperate at this point, right? He is on the hot seat, and they desperately need to win now. Seahawks, I don't feel that same sense of urgency of that they have to get a quarterback to save anyone's jobs at this point in time. For me, that's where I lean towards Carolina as being that team to possibly trade for Baker Mayfield as opposed to the Seattle Seahawks at this point in time. But ultimately, no, when we see if the Panthers take Malik Willis or not.